Okay, sorry, I've got a whole doggo in my lap. Welcome to the I Am Catholic YouTube channel, and my name is Mila Manzella. Hey. What's up, guys? My name is Marco Manzella. Welcome to the I Am Catholic YouTube channel. Welcome to the I Am Catholic project. It's been a minute. I'll explain why now. Let's get going. Today we are going to be talking about my ministry journey. Reason I've been praying a lot. Everyone knows that verse in the Bible, the parable in the Bible where Jesus talks about the fact that the harvest is plenty but the laborers are few. And that is very much the truth for ministry in at least our area right now. But I also believe, yeah, I love my dogs, I'm sorry. But that's also the truth for the rest of the world as well. I think that we have this world is so right to be ministered to, but there's not a lot of people that are really taking up this call to ministry. So today I want to talk about my ministry journey. I'm not going to talk about my journey through the faith. I'm only talking about my ministry journey. My journey through the faith is going to be a different story for a different day. But it does start primarily with like my journey in the faith. So the first part of my whole journey, I must say, begins in my bed with my dad. Every night before I went to bed when I was young, I think my mom as well, I can't remember, but I definitely remember my dad being involved. My dad used to read to me from the children's Bible. I still remember the animated pictures of like lions. I remember seeing all of these wonderful, wonderful things, like imagining them. I have a very vivid imagination. And because I got to see the picture right in front of me there from the Bible, I remember finding so much hope and peace and comfort in these Bible stories. They were just so phenomenal. I was blessed enough to go to a Catholic boys' school here in Johannesburg called St. Benedict's. Probably the best, in my opinion, the best Catholic school in the country. Obviously, I'm going to be very biased. But it was arriving at that school that I realized that like the upbringing that I had, the way that my parents raised me was special. It was something that was different to what the rest of the world had been blessed with. A real place that I noticed was in grade 7, where we participated in our first Bible quiz. Well, I participated in the first Bible quiz I ever had. And it kind of came naturally to me. I remembered all the stories from the Bible from growing up, and I realized that I had some form of experience and knowledge that the rest of the world didn't. And we won that Bible quiz. It's like the first time my school had won in years, more than a decade. And I was super proud of that. I was super proud of the fact that my faith had bringing me some level of achievement. And now many of you may be like, okay, that's very prideful. And that's 100% true. Prideful in the bad sense. But even in the difficult times and in those difficult moments, I do think that God was working. And even in my pride, I definitely think God was working on me and giving me inspiration for what it is that He wanted me to do in this world, in terms of like taking steps forward in ministry. So I realized that I had a position of leadership in the church in its own very small way, just merely because I had a lot of knowledge about the Bible, which was really special for me. When you're that age, any form of authority that you think you have, even though I had none, is a form of authority that you've never had before. So it was really cool, and that was a special period for me. I was very young, very inexperienced. I didn't really know much about anything to do with ministry, but in my own way I was ministering, encouraging people to try and participate in this Bible quiz, encouraging people to learn about the Bible, almost in a competitive way, which is not exactly the best way, but it was still something that God used. And from there, I definitely it solidified the idea that I was a Catholic kid and I could be proud of it. Come grade 8, 9, and 10, that definitely took a left turn. My faith really plummeted in that period. That is going to be another story for another day. But in grade 11, I was blessed enough to participate in World Youth Day in Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. I mentioned it time and again. Anyway, so what had happened in this particular one was I was the oldest member of the St. Benedict's group that went to World Youth Day, it wasn't a position that anyone had given me, but I almost thought that I was the leader of the group, which was 100% incorrect, again, in my pride. But again, God was working on me in that way, because I remember doing a lot of trying to like encourage people, particularly the younger members of my group, to live out their faith. They were really proud to be able to say that they were Catholic, and I'm very proud to say that I had some form of influence on that. We had incredible chats, and we just became very good friends on that journey, and a number of them have gone on to do incredible ministry work. After World Youth Day, I was in grade 11, 2013. At the end of that year, it was a very special year for me. I was made head of religion at my school. Head of religion is officially the religion leader for the high school, which is really awesome for me, because it was the first step in some form of formal ministry position that I'd had in any capacity. I look back on that year with immense pride, because I was given so much guidance by an incredible group of people that I looked up to and still look up to today. They're still like so invaluable in my life. People who have now gone on to become priests, but more than that, lay people who still work at St. Benedict's, who I have so much respect and admiration for. They completely changed my outlook on the faith, and fundamentally me as a human being. They gave me so much inspiration to be me, which was just so incredible. At the end of grade 12 matric, once I left high school, I went to university, which is currently where I'm at. When you leave a Catholic boys' school and go into this kind of secular university, it's a very difficult step. We were surrounded by the faith, and we were surrounded by this availability to practice the faith in mass and in prayer and in all of these different things at school, but that is not the reality for university. In fact, university is almost the exact opposite. So I really had to fight for my faith in those early years of university. It was really a struggle, but it was also something that I can look back on with a lot of pride. I became a member of the youth group leadership team at my parish, and they were just phenomenal. That version of youth ministry when you're working in a church is just undeniably amazing. And I now am one of two co-executives for the youth group at our parish, and I'm surrounded by the most incredible leadership team and people that constantly inspire me to do better in my faith and to go further in my faith. And that's been the reality for the past 3 to 5 years. I've been involved in in tons of ministries in the church. I was never an altar server. Had a really bad experience altar serving. The first time I was altar serving, I arrived late to mass. Not just late. The priest had started mass. We were in the confiteor, which is the part where you're I confess to Almighty God. I walked in with my fellow altar server then. It was embarrassing. You don't need to be an altar server. You don't need to be this Catholic kid. You can be whoever you are, and if you feel God is calling you, He's going to use you. The reason this video was late was actually because of my university. I'm now studying my Masters of Law. I have had so many projects recently that are really important, and they weigh a lot for my year mark. So that I was kind of working on those. Don't forget that your ministry work is not an excuse to ignore your secular life. We tend to do that a lot. I tend to do that a lot, where kind of just put my life on the back burner because I've got to focus on ministry work. That's not what God wants. Another story for another day. You never find as much joy as when you're giving joy to others, in my own personal experience. And that's definitely what youth ministry has shown me. This video is also intended to kind of give inspiration to people who feel like they could be involved in youth ministry. I said at the beginning of this video, the harvest is ready, but the laborers are few. There are so many people that are calling out for God without calling out for God. And there's such a desperate need for youth ministers and people that will inspire them to get involved in their faith, but there just is not enough people to go and talk to them, to go and minister to them. If you feel this call to get involved in youth ministry or to get involved in ministry as a whole, this video is kind of meant to inspire you, to show you that I'm not special. There was no special step that I took that you can't take. I just said yes. I just said yes to every opportunity that God gave me. Every time God inspired me in a certain way, I just followed that inspiration. And that is definitely something that you can do too. You just need to be brave enough to take that step in faith. The people that have surrounded me in my youth ministry are the people that I regard as the closest friends that I have. In every ministry I know, I work with the most inspirational and incredible people. There is no doubt in my mind that if you do get involved in ministry in one form or another, you are never going to regret it. You are never going to regret it. If you are a youth minister and you're looking for people to inspire, pray for them. There are a lot of people out there that are feeling this call, this willingness to get involved, but they just don't have that opportunity. Provide the opportunity. We need to be providing opportunities instead of kind of sitting safe in our high tower. That's not what ministry is. That's just completely pride. You have a testimony to give to this world. You have someone to inspire. It may not be sitting in front of a conference or a big concert venue talking to hundreds of thousands of people. The way that St. Francis said it was, go out and preach the gospel, and if necessary, use words. The way that you live your life matters. The way that you live your life counts, and that's the way that you're going to preach the gospel. You may be the only gospel that some people ever get to meet. You may be the only Jesus that some person will ever know. We need to be encouraging people to try and find God by the way that we live our lives. And if you are able to do that, if you are feeling that call to do that, ask God for the opportunity and then take it. It's very difficult sometimes, but you need to take it. There is a lot of steps involved in youth ministry work, and I haven't given all of them. I'd love to give more. Maybe that can be the first Spotify podcast. Pause. So I'm considering starting a podcast. This YouTube format is absolutely wonderful, but it's not conducive to getting all of the information that I'd like to share with you across. For example, this video on my youth ministry could have been something like half an hour long, which would just be way too long for YouTube. So in starting a podcast, I'd be able to bring in a lot more speakers. I'd be able to bring in a lot more people to give you inspiration, and I'd also be able to connect more and get a little bit more personal about my topics. I'm thinking about it. Please pray for me. As always, I'm praying for you guys too. Play. Guys, wherever you are, stay safe. This period has been difficult. But you know, as Sister Neville said a couple of videos back, Jesus is finding us here. This is where Jesus has called us to, and this is where he's going to find us. So look for him. Find him. My name is Marco Menzilla. I am Catholic and I'm proud of it. I hope that you're able to say the same thing. Look after yourselves. God bless. Ciao.